Hello everyone, we would like to introduce the Chart Guys' newest course, Essential Candlesticks and the Patterns that they create. This is something that I, 9 years into my trading journey, take for granted. I look at a chart and I can instantly, subconsciously know what the candlestick shapes are telling me, the patterns that they are creating, and the market psychology that's going on behind the scenes to create those candlestick shapes. Obviously, I had to learn this at some point, and it was literally step number 1 of my technical analysis education journey was understanding what these candlestick shapes are telling us. So after going through this 12-hour course, you'll be able to understand why candlesticks are essential for trading success, develop your own ability to observe and react to the market trends and changes, develop an understanding of market psychology and how this phenomenon influences price action, as well as a whole bunch more. I'm going to link this website in the description of this video so you can check out more information for yourself. We've got examples of the modules and we break down exactly how this course is compiled. And essentially what it is a big chunk of book learning. So it's going to break down what these patterns are telling us: 2 candlestick bullish patterns, 3 candlestick bullish patterns, 2 candlestick bearish patterns, so on and so forth. Some live examples of those patterns playing out, and then tying it all together as to how we can use understanding these patterns to benefit our trading. My partner, Chart Guys Jason, goes through the meat of this course, breaking down all these individual patterns. I personally chime in with more abstract psychological topics of discussion, the art of observation, the psychology of a candle, and things of that nature. But we look forward to you checking this course out, and we appreciate your support as always. Have a great rest of your day. Hey everyone, before we get into Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, XRP, BNB, and TRX, want to give a shout out to Nugget's crypto community on Facebook. Definitely worth checking them out for fundamental analysis as we get ready for the eventual bull run. Who knows when that's going to be, but it's going to happen at some point again. And that is a great way to get prepared for it in terms of knowing which coins to focus on. Certainly useful information, and the most recent example would just be Alex pretty much nailing both directions of Binance and TRX as they had a fundamental run-up, and then they had a sell the news event, and he was all over that sell the news event as well. So definitely some useful information to check out. And let's get into Bitcoin. So Bitcoin on the weekly time frame. We'll start with everybody on the weekly as the weekly candlestick is coming to a close today. But essentially, we're looking for a weekly higher low. That's the only hope that the bulls have here. A higher low compared to 31.28. And there's no sign of it forming at this point on the weekly time frame. So the odds do still favor the bears for continuation to lower lows. And again, the burden of proof is on the bulls. So until they prove something to us, until they change the daily trend and change the weekly trend, we're just going to assume that lower highs and lower lows are going to continue. So on the daily time frame, we've seen a bounce attempt here, and it's a potential bear flag still. It's pretty extended, so I wouldn't call this, an ideal bear flag, because we have the size of the flagpole and the size of the flag are essentially the same size here. So just the fact that it's so drawn out, I wouldn't really call it a textbook bear flag. But the point is that the bounce that we've seen has not taken back much of the dump at all, and it's taken 6 days to do so, and we're still pretty weak. We still have the daily exponential resistance to be watching, which continues to reject the price, and the supports to be watching are 33.69 and then 33.37 before we drop down to the lowest price we've seen on this entire pullback. So still watching the daily exponential resistances. Again, I talk about the burden of proof for the bulls, and for me, you got to turn these two levels into support before I even start believing that the bulls have any follow through. And it's the kind of scenario where if we're zoomed in, even on the 4-hour time frame, we're not getting follow through on signals. So we got the last video, we were talking about the potential of the 4-hour equilibrium, which did end up forming, and we did end up getting a bull break from that pattern yesterday with 0 follow through. We broke resistance, we gave it all back, and here we are testing support. So when you break resistance levels and change trends on a time frame and you don't get any follow through, you zoom out and look for flags. So again, not a textbook bear flag, but essentially the psychology is there, a weak bounce attempt with potential continuation to lower lows. And it's the same in the other direction. If you are looking at a bullish, and I can just pull up oil real quick as it comes to mind. So oil on the daily time frame had been in a very strong bull move, and we lost the daily uptrend. We formed a little lower high and lower low, a change of trend with no follow through. The next day, the bulls completely recovered. So then you zoom out and look for a flag, and then the weekly chart ended up being a little bull flag at that point and saw continuation. So just a little lesson that in both directions, if we do not get follow through on trend changes, zoom out and look for flags. So the bears are in control now, testing this 4-hour support, which just broke but didn't get much follow through for the bears. So a bit of a choppy range that we're trading in. But again, odds favor the bears for continuation down. Litecoin is the stronger of the major names that we've been watching. So there's some signs here of the attempt at a weekly higher low. We had the low of 22.17, the high of the bounce, and building a base of support down here in the $29 range. So bulls are going to have to get over 41.27 to shift this weekly momentum and see any kind of follow through. And if we drop down and break $29 support, then we have no attempt at changing that weekly trend. So the daily time frame here, why Litecoin has been standing out to us over the last 2 weeks is, number one, we didn't break support to drop to lower lows, whereas Bitcoin very clearly did on its daily chart. And number two, we broke resistance of $34 yesterday, and we have very limited resistance. Again, this is one of those examples where we can have an ideal chart set up on the Litecoin or any coin for the bulls, but if Bitcoin's not going to follow along, we're not going to get much follow through. So we got the bull break of 34 with the lack of follow through because Bitcoin didn't get any follow through as well. But if we look at the Litecoin Bitcoin chart, LTC, BTC, and this one on Coinbase, we can see that the bulls are very strong and coming up to test a key resistance, and Litecoin has been gaining on Bitcoin for the last 2 months. And this is a trend change attempt here with our bounce from the lows, our brief consolidation for a higher low, and now looking for this continuation. So again, keep an eye on Litecoin because it is very well positioned comparative to Bitcoin. We just have to see the cryptocurrency space see some bullish action for the Litecoin bulls to take advantage of the lack of resistance that is here over $34. We're currently consolidating and likely going to form a daily inside bar today. If that inside bar breaks bearish on Monday, we're going to look for a higher low to form compared to 30.57, which is a little daily higher low that we set a couple days ago. And the 4-hour time frame, still a very strong uptrend, higher lows in place. And pretty much if we form a bounce here, which we are bouncing off this 33.05 support, and if we cannot break 34.66, we'll have a 4-hour equilibrium to watch, which will be that daily inside bar. Ethereum, comparatively, again, we have the low of the weekly chart, the high of the bounce, which was 100% bounce. And look at how small that looks, which is why I'm excited for the cryptocurrency space when momentum clearly shifts, because it will happen, like I said, eventually. Whether it happens from Ethereum $30 or from $80, I don't know. But when we bounce, you can see it's just, you look at this long-term picture, you say, wow, that's a really weak bounce, so what? But that's a 100% move. So we know that when the momentum shifts, there's going to be big percent gains to be had, which is, again, why I'm not taking my eyes off this sector, even though I've been trading maybe one trade a month for probably the last 3 months. So we have our low, high of the bounce, no sign of a higher low forming. So we have to assume the bears have full control, and we're going to continue to fade back down towards that support. The daily time frame, exponential resistance continues to reject the price. It's a weak bounce attempt like Bitcoin. Support is 103 and 190 cents. On the 4-hour time frame, didn't even get the bull break, double top at 110 and a clear rejection. So now we're looking down. Bulls must hold key support at 105.16 and 104.90. So still likely to maintain a 4-hour higher low, but just a tightening range. And the daily time frame giving us an inside bar as well. I want to see this Bitcoin chart again to see if Bitcoin's given us that daily inside bar. And it broke bearish already, so it's not an inside bar because we broke to a lower low. XRP. So the weekly time frame has a double bottom, and it was looking solid, like we were going to get a bounce and a tightening weekly pattern, but at this point that's faded a bit. So the bulls definitely need more follow through. They want to make their way back up in the upper 30s to give us a weekly equilibrium. Otherwise, we're just going to look for a daily lower high and then continuation back down to test this double bottom. This is not the kind of bounce the bulls were hoping for. We had the bull reaction to the interview that we had a few days ago. We established a support. This is where the bulls want to see a bounce back into the upper 3.2s to form an equilibrium. And this is a very weak bounce. This bounce favors the bears. If we had bounced, over 33, that would favor the bulls. But because we didn't even get to the halfway point of this range, it favors the bears, and we're looking down at 330 support and then 285 as that key double bottom. If we break 285, we're looking down at 252 as the next level. That is a clear short-term support that the bulls want to maintain to try and form that weekly double bottom. BNB USDT, this weekly chart is better looking than anybody else that we just looked at. And the reason for that is the size of the bounce still, where from the low, we have recovered 70%, and we're still up at a 60% plus move from that low. And also the weekly exponential resistance. Nobody that we just looked at is closing anywhere near over their 4-period weekly exponential resistance, which we did last week, and the bulls are trying to do it again this week. So we have a clear little higher low, higher high pattern. As I pointed out in the video last video that I did, it's not the kind of clear trend change that we want to see. We want to see trend changes that take place over a long period of time. Like back here, this is our low, high of the bounce, higher low, clear trend change. And that took place over 7 weeks. Whereas here, we have our bounce and then these little mini higher lows and higher highs all taking place within 2-3 weeks of each other. So it's not the same kind of trend change. It is a shift in momentum and it's a trend change on the daily. But as far as the weekly chart goes, we need a clear higher low and higher high over a long period of time to have that trend change confidence. We're setting up for an equilibrium. And again, beautiful follow through for the double bottom hold at 594 and then break of resistance. Bulls could not have hoped for better follow through. The 620 break was the key on the lower highs on the 4-hour time frame, and at this point we made it all the way up to 690, so well over 10% on that move up. But the daily time frame, the likely scenario is a lower high compared to 721 and an equilibrium. Losing the 4-hour uptrend is our indication that our daily lower high has been set. It's clear that the bulls are struggling at 690 with multiple tops up here, and if we drop down and see a break of 678, that's going to be the first indication that we have shifted momentum and that we've set our daily lower high. So if that's the case, we'll then look for a pullback and a higher low, perhaps around 640, and we'll look for a break of this daily equilibrium, perhaps mid next week. Still have to see more pullback to be confident that our lower high has been set yet, but that is the most likely scenario going forward short term. TRX USDT weekly time frame also stands out for strength because again, we're well over 100% off of the low. And we broke weekly resistances. 2837 was a key weekly resistance that we did break. And this is another one where the bounce is pretty much coming off the low. We traded sideways, and then it's been all bulls since then. We need a clear higher low and higher high to confirm the trend change. And it would be a similar pattern to an inverse head and shoulders, where this would be our left shoulder, this would be our head. And although we did break resistance, if we were to consolidate and form a higher low, that would be the clear trend change that the bulls would be looking for ideally. But that's a few weeks off. Currently, a weekly inside bar is forming, so we'll watch for that to break next week. And as far as the daily chart goes, I'm really just looking at the longer ranges with our high, low of the pullback, lower high, and we're looking for a higher low compared to 204. So looking at that on the weekly time frame, it's an equilibrium. It's not ideal. Probably actually looks best here if we were to do a 2-day time frame here. Let me put that up real quick. This is something that I'm just doing on the fly, obviously, where it's standing out to me. And there it is. So a little bit better for the equilibrium here with our high, low, lower high, and now we're looking for a higher low compared to 203. So don't ever use the 2-day personally, but there's certain scenarios where we can get more clarity if we just shift the time frame perspective a little bit. So keep an eye out for the TRX equilibrium and the higher low needing to form sometime in the next few days. So tightening ranges on the daily charts for TRX and for BNB, but we are a little bit longer term on the TRX pattern, so it'll probably take a little bit longer to play out and break, whereas BNB is probably going to see a break at some point next week. So that's where we stand as we head into our new week. The bears still have control. The daily exponential resistances are still our guide. It's very easy for me to remain a skeptical trader, a skeptical person on the sidelines, where I can just have this line in the sand where I say, if the daily exponentials are resistance on Bitcoin, I'm not looking bullish. I'm not looking for any bullish trades. That's step number one for the bulls to prove to me a shift in momentum. Then I'll start looking in the other direction if they can get over those resistances. So I appreciate you watching. I hope you have a good weekend. Do some good things out there. I'm about to head out for some hikes. The weather's warming up after a very chilly spell. And heading to Puerto Rico next week. So I'll check in from there. The cryptocurrency tax haven in the world. And hope you have a good Sunday.